What's going on? My name's CJ. I'm a second year at the University of Washington School of Medicine. So just a quick disclaimer, not affiliated with any school. Ignore my shirt as well. I also forgot to wear my Patagonia, but we're not affiliated with anyone. This is all like personal advice, stuff that I have. But if you have interest in my school specifically, just reach out through Instagram or email or in the comments down below. Tip number one, if you're on a Zoom call or whatever your virtual interview thing is, you can minimize the screen to help promote eye contact. If you just minimize it, place it at the top, you could promote eye contact. It makes it, easier to look at eye contact anyways. Make sure you check your technology beforehand. This includes the internet, being on the Zoom or whatever virtual video platform you're going to be on. Try to do that beforehand. Make sure you have a clear background. Don't have anything distracting. This is not a good example, but if you need to rearrange your desk to do that, feel free to do that. Or if you know a place like on campus or at a library that has a clear background, you could do that too. Another one, you could also have sticky notes or flashcards that could give you prompts if you have like harder questions. I wouldn't use these sticky notes to write like prompts verbatim. I would really just do like the high yield stuff. Mainly if you get asked about a question like, tell me about a time when blah, 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 you could have sticky notes that have like a couple of words on each bullet point, just talking about like different stories you've had that you feel are high impact. I always had a problem with like remembering what stories to even like think of when I'm like trying to answer a question like that. And if you tend to swivel around in your chair, if you have like one that swivels around and you're in an interview, try to replace it with one that like is stable on the ground, so you don't have to worry about rolling around and like distracting your interview too much while you're talking with them. You could also try recording yourself and just analyzing like whether you tend to yap a lot or if you tend to even swivel around or if you have other like tics or habits that you do during interviews. That could also help. Dress completely, including your like leggings, pants, whatever you're gonna wear, because in any case that you're asked to stand up or like you're stretching and you have your camera on, that like any reason that you are going to be standing, you want to make sure you're not getting caught lacking. Don't go into the interview with the intention of just repeating things that are already on your application, because if you speak to things that are already on your application, you're really just doing a disservice to both you and the interviewer in terms of giving them information that they already know about you. And even if they're doing a blind interview, it really doesn't help, because when they report back to whatever their admissions committee is, it's just going to overlap with what they already read about you through paper. And you're just not, making yourself a human, basically. You're really just being words on paper, and that's not what you want. And if you do decide to explore things that are not there, make sure you're exploring them from heart and not just saying it just to say it because it like looks good to the school. Some schools will really grill you if you try to talk about something you're not super familiar with. Don't just say that you want to do rural primary care if you do not want to. I'd rather you be honest and get rejected out of school that would have otherwise dragged you through doing a curriculum that you would not have appreciated, under than like just being honest and like being accepted for being who you are. Common theme that I always tell and that I've heard when I was interviewing is you'll end up where you're meant to go. Don't take that lightly. If you don't get accepted into a school that you're kind of on the fence about, like you wanted to go there but you saw that their mission was not super in line with yours, that's okay. You're meant to go where you're meant to go. Speaking of, you should also know if your school is heavy on like either community, social determinants of health, research or academics, or just being local or regional, doing regional work. If it's a more community-based, then consider thinking of things that are like community-based, including like demographics, policies, the history of whatever community you're interviewing at. If it's social determinants of health based, then try to implement, like your understanding of social determinants of health into your answers. If it's research or academics based, just make sure that you're up to date with research and academics in terms of like academic medicine and ongoing public health or scientific advancements in research. If you're doing regional work, then you should definitely try to prioritize talking about how you have ties to that region. If not ties, then about like what interest would you have in working in that region, or something that you could only see yourself benefiting from attending that school in specific. Essentially, just like they want to recruit people that will either stay in the region or like actually have some type of interest in the region. And if you have a tie, like a family member, or you grew up, went to undergrad in that region, then that's usually a good sign. At a school that does panel interviews, so they do a 3-to-1 format. There's 3 people interviewing you, and you are the one interviewer. When you do have a panel interview, just be careful, because at any moment that you're talking, any one of those 3 panelists could just jump in and ask you a question. If you're not being honest with yourself, then you could quickly get caught lacking, because this is not the same traditional like one-on-one where you're, it's more conversational. Sometimes it could feel like a one-sided conversation, which has its pros and cons. Unlike a traditional just conversation, a one-sided conversation means that you're in charge of directing where like the narrative goes. That is probably a whole separate video in itself, what it is to have an interview narrative. But what that just means for you is that if you ever feel like you're asked something that's very troubling, you always have the opportunity to retreat to a conversation or a topic that you're more comfortable talking about. One thing I heard for in-person interviews, stare at the person's forehead if you can't make eye contact, if you're scared, or you're like a little like socially withdrawn because you spend so much time in your textbooks. Allegedly, I do that too. You could just stare at the interviewer's forehead. That'll work too. And treat everyone you encounter that interview day with like respect and kindness. Even if they're not the person interviewing you, you'd still want to be respectful. The last thing I'd want to leave y'all off with, not really a tip, but just a reminder, you are in the interview stage. Just imagine like a couple months ago, you were in the application phase. This is not something to overlook. It took a lot of effort to get here. This is really the final stretch. So lock in, but don't forget how far you've come to get here. All right, that's all I have for y'all. If you're a current medical student, or you're someone who interviewed this cycle and got accepted, please feel free to share your advice down in the comments. Otherwise, send this to someone who might find this useful. Y'all take care. Peace. We out here in a cabin in the mountains, in the woods. Saturday actually, May 17th.